The city thrummed under a heavy November sky, its streets slick with rain and alive with the clatter of hurried footsteps. Victor Hargrove, a 44-year-old CEO of a logistics empire called Transpeak, strode through. The crowd, his leather briefcase clutched tightly, its handle worn, smooth from years of relentless ambition. A critical investor meeting loomed, one that could save his company from a looming financial collapse. His gray suit, damp from the drizzle, clung to his frame, his jaw set against the weight of a life built on control. A faint scent of roses cut through the urban grit, drawing his gaze to a flower shop tucked between a bank and a newsstand. Inside, Clara Mendoza, a 36-year-old florist with calloused hands and a braid woven with tiny daisies, arranged blooms in a burst of color. Victor's briefcase caught on her shop's awning, a strap tearing loose. Clara stepped out, her apron dusted with pollen, and said she could fix it. With a ribbon that even briefcases deserved a little beauty. She tied a violet ribbon around the handle, her fingers quick and gentle, and Victor froze, her small act stirring a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Victor stood under the shop's awning, the scent of wet roses and damp earth enveloping him. The violet ribbon gleamed against his briefcases. Leather, an unexpected splash of color in his monochrome world. Clara said beauty could mend anything, even a heart too busy to notice. Victor, his watch ticking toward the meeting, muttered he didn't have time for sentiment, but his voice lacked its usual edge. Her words, soft as petals, lingered, tugging at a memory of a life less driven, one he'd buried long ago. Clara returned to her roses, her hands deftly trimming stems, the snip of her shears a quiet rhythm. Victor watched, his fingers tracing the ribbon, its silk smooth against his calloused palm. Ivy, an 8-year-old girl with Clara's eyes, peeked from behind the counter, saying the ribbon made his briefcase look happy. Victor's lips twitched, almost a smile, as Clara laughed, saying her daughter saw joy in everything. The violet ribbon glowed, a motif of possibility, pulling Victor from his rush into a moment of stillness. Victor stepped back into the rain, the violet ribbon a bright thread against the city's gray. Clara's words about beauty, about hearts echoed, a quiet challenge to his relentless drive. He said he'd return to pay her, his voice gruff, but Clara waved it off, saying the ribbon was a gift, that some things didn't need payment. Ivy giggled, saying he should come back for more ribbons, that they made everything better. Victor nodded, the briefcase lighter in his hand, as if the ribbon carried more than silk. The investor meeting loomed, a glass tower piercing the skyline. But Victor's steps slowed. The violet ribbon caught the street lamp's glow, its hue a beacon of something softer, something he'd forgotten. He glanced back at the shop, its windows warm with rose-tinted light. Clara and Ivy's small figures within. The ribbon, now a symbol of connection, tugged at his heart, whispering of a life he might still reclaim. In the boardroom, Victor faced a sea of suits, the air sharp with the scent of coffee and tension. Transpeak's numbers flashed on screens, red lines signaling ruin. Victor's voice was steady, commanding, but his fingers brushed the violet ribbon, its silk a quiet rebellion against the chaos. A junior executive, Lena Patel, a 30-year-old with a habit of twisting her bracelet, noticed his distraction and asked if he was all right, her tone cautious but warm. Victor said he was fine, just focused, but his eyes drifted to the ribbon, Clara's words. Echoing beauty could mend a heart. The meeting stretched on, the stakes climbing, but Victor felt detached, the violet ribbon a tether to something real. He saw Clara's shop in his mind, its roses and daisies vivid against the boardroom's sterile gray. Lena watched him, her bracelet glinting, sensing a shift he couldn't yet name. The ribbon's hue, now a symbol of longing, glowed faintly, urging him toward a truth he'd buried under ambition. After the meeting, Victor lingered in his office, the city's lights sprawling below. The violet ribbon lay across his desk, its hue stark against the polished wood. He poured a glass of bourbon, its amber swirl hollow compared to the ribbon's warmth. Clara's words about beauty, about hearts gnawed at him, a reminder of a life before Transpeak, before loss hardened him. His wife had left a decade ago, taking his heart with her, and the ribbon felt like a crack in that scar. Lena knocked, entering with a report, saying she'd noticed his distance, that the team needed him present. Victor snapped, saying he didn't need her concern, but his voice faltered. Lena stood firm, her bracelet twisting, and said even CEOs deserve to feel something. Her words, like Clara's, carried a quiet truth, stirring Victor's buried longing. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of vulnerability, a call to rediscover what he'd lost. The next morning, Victor returned to Clara's shop, the air crisp with the scent of roses and damp leaves. The violet ribbon still adorned his briefcase, its hue brighter in the daylight. Clara was arranging lilies, her braids swaying, ivy coloring at the counter. She looked up, smiling, and said she knew he'd come back, that ribbons had a way of pulling people closer. Victor, hesitant, said he wasn't sure why he was there, but his voice was softer, unguarded. Ivy ran to him, saying his briefcase looked even happier now, like it belonged in their shop. Clara laughed, offering him a cup of chamomile tea, its steam curling in the cool air. Victor accepted, the warmth seeping into his hands, the violet ribbon glowing beside him. He felt no rush, no ticking clock, the shop a haven from the city's pulse. The ribbon, now a symbol of belonging, tied him to Clara's world, its hue blooming in his heart. Days passed, and Victor found himself at Clara's shop daily, drawn by the scent of flowers and the violet ribbon's pull. The city's noise faded in her presence, its demands softened by the rustle of petals and Ivy's laughter. One evening, as the sky burned gold, Clara shared her story, a single mother who'd opened the shop after escaping a broken home, each bloom a defiance of her past. Victor listened, his defenses crumbling, and said he'd lost his heart to ambition, that he'd forgotten how to feel. Clara nodded, her shears pausing, and said hearts could bloom again, like flowers after winter. Ivy, stringing daisies into a chain, said Victor should make a chain too, that it would make him smile. Victor's fingers fumbled with the flowers, but he tried, the violet ribbon on his briefcase glowing beside him, its hue now a symbol of renewal, wove their stories together, urging Victor toward a love he hadn't dared imagine. At Transpeak, the investor talks faltered, the boardroom a battlefield of egos. Victor led with precision, but Lena noticed his quieter moments, the way he touched the violet ribbon. During a break, she asked what had changed, her bracelet twisting as she spoke. Victor said Florist had reminded him of beauty, of life beyond deals. Lena's eyes softened, and she said she'd been chasing numbers too long, that his change inspired her. That night, Victor returned to Clara's shop, the air thick with the scent of jasmine. Clara was wrapping roses, her hands steady, and said he looked lighter, like a man finding his way. Victor admitted her ribbon had changed him, that it felt like a second chance. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of hope, blooming in the space between them, tying their hearts to a shared future. Victor began sketching flowers, his office desk littered with drawings of roses and daisies, the violet ribbon pinned above. The act felt like reclaiming a piece of himself, a spark from a youth spent painting before ambition took over. He showed Clara a sketch of her shop, the violet ribbon vivid in the foreground, and said it was a thank you for her gift. Clara studied it, her eyes bright, and said it wasn't just a shop, it was him blooming again. Ivy clapped, saying his flowers were almost as pretty as her mom's. Clara laughed, offering him a violet rose, saying it matched his ribbon. His heart Victor took it, its petals soft, the scent grounding him. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of love's quiet growth, weaving Victor into Clara's world, into a life he was beginning to embrace. Transpeak's investors pulled out, the company teetering on collapse. Victor stood in the boardroom, the violet ribbon on his briefcase, a quiet defiance. He said the company could rebuild, but not at the cost of its people. Lena backed him, her bracelet still, saying his heart was their future. The room fell silent, her words echoing Clara's, and Victor felt the ribbon's pull, its violet hue a reminder of what mattered. He went to Clara's shop, the air rich with the scent of lavender. Clara was arranging tulips, ivy stringing daisies nearby. She looked up and said he seemed different, like a man who'd found his roots. Victor admitted he'd let the company falter, but he'd found something greater, her ivy himself. Clara smiled, saying roots grew strongest in small moments. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of courage blooming into love between them. Victor visited Clara's shop daily, each trip a step toward love. The violet ribbon, now frayed but vibrant, marked his briefcase like a vow. He helped Clara arrange blooms, his hands clumsy but eager, Ivy giggling at his efforts. Clara said he was learning that flowers took time, like hearts. Victor laughed, saying she was his teacher, his home. Ivy tied a violet ribbon in his hair, saying he was part of their family now. Lena stopped by, her bracelet glinting, saying she'd taken a risk at Transpeak, inspired by Victor's change. She admired Clara's shop, saying, felt like hope. Clara offered her a daisy, saying hope grew in small things. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of family, weaving Victor, Clara, Ivy, and Lena into a shared tapestry of love and courage. Victor stepped back from Transpeak, passing leadership to Lena, who balanced profit with purpose. He spent his days at Clara's shop, sketching blooms, the violet ribbon pinned above his desk. Clara said his sketches were beautiful, that they captured her heart. Ivy added a daisy to his sketch, saying it needed more love. Victor laughed, saying they taught him what love was. One evening, under the shop's rose-tinted lights, Victor took Clara's hand, saying her ribbon had saved him, had bloomed into his greatest love. Clara's eyes glistened, and she said love was just a small act, grown with time. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of devotion, a thread tying their hearts forever. Victor felt whole, the shop his home, its blooms his future. Months later, Victor and Clara opened a community garden behind the shop, its beds bursting with roses and daisies, violet ribbons tied to every trellis. Victor sketched daily, his art filling the shop, ivies, daisy chains adorning every corner. Lena visited, saying the garden was Transpeak's new heart, a gift to the city. Clara smiled, saying small acts grew into love always. Ivy ran through the garden, saying the ribbons made everything bloom brighter like Victor's heart. Victor nodded, his sketchbook open, saying Clara and Ivy were his bloom, his love. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of legacy, of love rooted deep. Victor felt his past ambition, loss fade, replaced by the warmth of Clara's hand, the scent of roses, the promise of forever. The garden thrived, a haven in the city's heart. Victor and Clara tended it together, their hands dirt-streaked, their laughter mingling with the scent of blooms. Ivy tied violet ribbons to every new plant, saying they were wishes for love. Lena, now leading Transpeak, brought employees to volunteer, saying the garden was their redemption, inspired by Victor's change. One evening, Clara handed Victor a violet rose, saying it was for him, for their love that bloomed from a single ribbon. Victor took it, his heart full, saying she was his greatest love, his home. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue now a symbol of joy, of lives intertwined by a Small act that grew forever. The garden's blooms swayed, their colors a testament to love's quiet power. Years later, the garden was a city landmark, its violet ribbons a symbol of love's endurance. Victor, his hair graying, painted now his canvases, alive with roses and ribbons. Clara at his side. Ivy, a teenager, tended the garden, her daisy chains now intricate, her laughter echoing her mother's. Lena, leading a thriving transpeak, said the garden was their heart, a gift from Victor and Clara's love. One quiet evening, under the garden's violet-tinted lights, Victor took Clara's hand, saying her ribbon had bloomed into his greatest love, his forever. Clara smiled, saying love was just a seed, nurtured by time. Ivy hugged them, saying the garden was their family, blooming always. The violet ribbon glowed, its hue a final note of love, of lives, transformed by a small act. The city hummed softly, the garden alive, its blooms eternal.